Charter Advisory Committee meeting. We have invited special guests here today, and I'll do quick introductions. To my far right is Don Mackey. He is our LCAT director. He's been involved with the Cable Advisory, committee since 2005. He's been our LCAT director for 6 years. Next to him is Mr. Lloyd Oakes. He started this process with the negotiations since we were with Greater Media, for some of you who have been with us that long. And then it's since gone to, we do have some seats up front if you'd like to. Okay. And he is retired from Hamilton Standard, and he believes he's been here since 1992, and we thank him for his service and continuous service. You can feel free to clap for them because they all give up their time. I'm going to go just introduce the committee first. The next person to my left is Jerry Saletti. He's new to the committee. He's a retired postal manager, and he has volunteered his time and is interested in this process and making sure we do what's best for East Long Meadow as well. Nick Bro has been with us to the far left. Nick Bro has been here for 9.5 years on the Culture Advisory Committee, and he is our town administrator. Next to me, my immediate right, is Mr. Tom Cohen. He is the representative from Charter Cable. We will give you an opportunity to have words after. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to have an overall presentation of the cable. We'll go over the franchise renewal process. We'll have remarks from Charter Cable representative, and then we'll have a question and answer session. And then we'll make sure we hear from everybody that is here. I want to thank all of you for coming out. When I joined this committee just recently, it was one of the committees that I'm the liaison on. There was concern about nobody coming up, and I kind of took that idea that if you invite them, they will come. And you certainly have done that, and thank you very much for taking the time. So, first off, we'll do a quick overall presentation. Ready? Okay. Just a little bit about the Cable Advisory Committee. It is appointed by the Board of Selectmen, and they are the issuing authority. And we are to advise them about the licensing process. There are federal and state laws that mandate the town negotiate with the current franchise charter. However, I'm going to give a side note that if there was another company that were to come in, if they're willing to pay the price, we could, as a community, could vote to have them in, just so that you're aware of it. Just a little tidbit. I know you don't like to hear that, but that's fine. Okay. The current term that we are dealing with right now goes from February 2011 till February 2016. The Cable Advisory Committee is now undertaking ascertainments to determine the cable television needs of the community, and that's why you've been invited here today. We'll make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen on whether or not to issue a renewal license and any terms in the renewal contract. The franchise is only for cable television services, not the telephone or the internet. What we're negotiating is strictly the cable. The town may not negotiate pricing or programming. The town may negotiate the length of the license, so we can make it a 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, or anything that we do come up with. So if you have some ideas on that, please let us know. The amount it receives to support public education and government programming, which is known as PEG access, so you'll hear that a few times throughout this conversation. The senior and veterans discounts, if you're a senior and you're not receiving that, we certainly are going to pose the question on how are we getting that information out to our seniors and our vets to make sure that they're getting that. That's a current discount that is already in place, and we're going to negotiate to try to keep that in place. the location of service centers, and other items of interest in the community. The the Cable Advisory Committee plans to issue a community survey in the fall of 2014. So you should listen out for that. That we're not sure how it will be coming to you, but we'll probably be entering into issuing requests for people to take that on. That's right? Okay. Public input may be submitted to the Board of Selectmen's office via email to nick.bro@eastlongmeadowma.gov. Or if you see one of your committee members, you certainly can speak with them. Don is here at the LCAT studio located at the high school. Mr. Oakes certainly is available. I know that I'm available. Jerry's available, and Nick, you can give him a phone call or send him an email. A draft agreement will be presented to the Board of Selectmen and made available for public comment in spring of 2015. At this point, we will give Mr. Cohen an opportunity to make some comments at this time.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Tom Cohan. I'm Director of Government Relations for Charter. Charter very much appreciates the opportunity to be the cable provider in East Longmeadow, and looks forward to negotiating another agreement. The current license has been a 5-year license. In that time, Charter has added 70 new HD channels to its lineup, and more than doubled its. Actually, we are continuing to increase our internet speeds. 5 years ago, our maximum speed was 16 megabits per second. It's now 100 megabits per second. And the standard residential speed was 5 megabits per second, and that's going up to 30 megabits today. We're in the middle of investing $2 billion nationwide in Charter systems to upgrade to all digital. So this fall, we will be, again, upgrading this system in the town of East Longmeadow, doubling the number of HD channels, improving the signal quality. So every channel will be digital, and there'll be close to 200 or over 200 HD channels. And as part of that, it's essentially making more effective use of the bandwidth we have. And that will also allow us to increase the internet speeds as well. The bandwidth limitations is what kept us from doing this in the past. We're required to carry all of the broadcast television stations in analog and the public educational government access channels in analog. Once we go to all digital, every channel will be in digital, and again, it allows us to use that bandwidth more efficiently.
Excuse me,
my role...
Mr. Cohen, I'm sorry, could I ask you to just speak up just a little bit more?
Sure. My role tonight is primarily to listen and hear any concerns you have about Charter service, what you're looking for in the future, and I can also talk a little bit more about, once we finish up talking about the cable license renewal, there's a pending transaction, which is probably of importance to a lot of people in the room.
Absolutely.
So
Okay.
with that,
okay.
More on a pending transaction, or you mean?
You want that now or later, or?
I hear, we can go
Okay,
ahead and
I'd
go
be
through
happy
with
to.
that now.
Okay. We have again, a pending transaction with Comcast. It's contingent upon a larger deal, Comcast purchasing Time Warner and getting all of the federal approvals they need. They have a petition with the FCC and the Federal Trade Commission to approve a Comcast purchase of Time Warner. Time Warner is about 11 million customers. There seems to be some magic threshold in the eyes of the regulators in Washington at 30 million. So I think to probably smooth the path to confirmation of that deal in Washington, Comcast and Charter have a deal that will allow Charter to purchase 1.4 million of the Time Warner customers after the Comcast purchases them in the Midwest. Charter will become primarily a Midwest cable company. We're also going to swap 1.5 million customers with Comcast. So we're essentially going to transfer all of the Charter systems in New England, including East Longmeadow and all those in Massachusetts, to Comcast, and then we are picking up Comcast customers' systems in the Midwest. So those of you who are college football fans, we're going to become kind of the Big Ten Conference cable company. Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and pretty much leave New England. Comcast today is the largest cable company in the country. It's the largest operator in Massachusetts. Charter has operated systems in 53 communities in Massachusetts. Comcast has just about all the rest except for about 11 Time Warner communities in the Berkshires. There'll be another transaction where Comcast is spinning off another 2.5 million customers, again primarily in the Midwest. Charter will be a 1/3 owner of this new company and the manager of that new company. So you may have read that Charter was actually trying to purchase Time Warner this time last year. We were making a bid to pretty much quadruple our size with a purchase like that. That didn't work out, but Comcast reached an agreement with Time Warner, and we're just kind of following up with that. So we're reaching our goal as a cable company of probably doubling in size. Initially, we'll grow by about 30%, and we'll be clustered to be able to take advantage of a lot of operational efficiencies. As an example, one of the limitations we have today in serving just 53 communities in Massachusetts, nationwide Charter is in 29 states. There's only, I think, 40% of those systems where we have enough of a cluster where it makes sense to advertise in the mass media. So I know that in Massachusetts, when I'm looking at most of the broadcast stations, it hasn't made sense for us to advertise. So what I see, even in all of our Charter communities, is Comcast ads and Fios, Verizon Fios ads, which puts us at a disadvantage. So that will be one of the advantages to Comcast in having a larger market, and we'll gain that advantage in the systems we're going to be serving out in the Midwest. We filed the transfer documents with all of the towns in Massachusetts, including East Longmeadow, on Tuesday of this week, June 17th. That essentially starts a process, and again, in this case, it's contingent upon the Comcast Time Warner deal being approved. But we're asking the FCC and the Federal Trade Commission and possibly the Department of Justice, I think they will be involved as well, to consider both transactions at the same time, so that any transfer of Charter systems would happen very soon, probably within 60 days after an approval of the Comcast purchase of Time Warner. So what that would mean for customers here,
Right.
And our employees, is probably just a different name on the truck, probably the same people driving those trucks. As a cable company, we pretty much have all of the same programming today, but Comcast does some things differently, and they will be, if the town wishes, there would be a public hearing on that transfer as well, and Comcast will appear, and I'll be with them, and they can make a presentation as to what they can offer to the residents and businesses in this area.
Well, then my question would be, excuse me for jumping, when we're negotiating this agreement, if the agreement is settled, will Comcast be honoring that agreement?
Yes.
Or will we be entering into negotiations all over again?
As part of the regulations related to transfers, any new company has to assume all of the obligations of an existing franchise agreement.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very likely, because this franchise doesn't expire until February of 2016. My plan was to provide you the formal application probably in January of 2015. It's very likely, it's more than likely, if everything happens as planned, that this will be transferred to Comcast prior to our completing a negotiation. We could negotiate faster if you prefer, and they would assume those obligations, or you could wait for.
Okay, you mentioned that they do things different. Do you want to expand upon that, or are you prepared, can you, at this point?
Again, they have the ability to advertise and promote their products better than we do.
Okay.
They offer a program called Internet Essentials for low-income residents, something that they were required to do as part of their purchase of NBC several years ago, but they have continued to operate that. So they offer, I think it's a $9.95 internet service for people whose, the eligibility criteria is a student who's part of the federal free lunch program.
Okay. All right. We're going to take questions from the audience at this point, and then we'll ask our questions. Let them go first. Yes.
I got a few questions, if you don't mind. Before this whole deal goes into effect, you mentioned that you're going to go to digital in the fall.
Yep.
With twice as many HD channels. Is my understanding also that TVs that don't have a box today will need a box for digital going forward?
Every TV will need a box when we go all digital.
Okay, follow-up. Is that an additional cost to us as a consumer?
There will be offers initially, depending on the level of service one has, to get, X number of free boxes for certain periods of time. Comcast and Charter is probably a little behind in this, but most of the other cable companies and the satellite companies are already all digital.
Okay. The other question I had is in regards to just the town itself here in East Long Meadow. It talks in here about, did you know that the town can award additional cable franchises to other operators? Have we had any discussions with any other cable operators yet? And if not, why?
Nobody has approached us yet. If somebody wanted to give a little more history on that, Mr. Mackey?
The cable system that the town has was installed by, I don't know, the Greater Media?
Greater Media.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so they installed all the wires, signed up customers, and built that system out themselves at their own expense, and paid for that system and operate that system. For another provider to offer cable service in East Long Meadow, they would have to make that same investment in today's dollars and build essentially a parallel cable system running along the streets and on the poles to everybody's house, and sign up customers in chunks in order to be able to operate. A private company cannot use Charter's private network to operate a competitive business. So it really means, I'm sorry?
Why? Because he's just going to have Comcast use it, and they have...
No, but they've made, that's a financial arrangement between the two companies.
Comcast will be purchasing our
So
network.
they're basically swapping
So
assets.
if I may, we have serious competitors today in the satellite companies. They offer a much better product than they did 10 years ago, and a lot of people take the satellite service. The primary wired line competitor to a cable company, and as Don said, it's the cable companies made that investment. It's difficult for anybody else to come along and compete with them unless they own the poles and they already have a wire in every house, and that's Verizon or AT&T. And both of them have built video networks in a lot of states nationwide. Verizon has 130 franchises in Massachusetts, but they're all in eastern Massachusetts, greater Boston, For whatever reason, they stayed out of the big cities, so they're not in the city of Boston. They're not in the city of Worcester. But they seem to have stopped. I think they found that their investment building fiber to the home was very costly, and they haven't been building or franchising new systems for several years now.
I'll work my way over, so I guess I'll go there and there next.
I have two questions. The first one was, I guess I heard a rumor that the town was putting in its own fiber optics network underground. Is that something that there's a plan to eventually put us in a position where we can negotiate with other cable providers because we own the fiber optics, or is that just a rumor that I heard? I don't have any facts.
Mr.
Well,
Brown?
there is a fiber network that was installed by the town, and it wires together all of the town buildings and the schools. There's no plans at this point to offer that as a commercial vehicle for any other competitor for cable, and I don't know that that would be enough to, to satisfy that. Certainly a good question that I could have a discussion with our IT director who is, involved with that project. I suspect that it would not be enough to entice another provider to come in, or perhaps even appropriate.
Okay, my other question, when my bill went up about a year or two ago, I took a look at the details to find out what the change was, and I found this specific charge for a franchise fee. And my franchise fee went from 54 cents to $4.54, which computes out to an increase of 840%. So when I called Charter, their answer was, well, we don't have anything to do with that, that's your town. So I called Boston, the authority over all telecommunications, and basically what I find is that Charter doesn't care, and I suspect no other cable company cares, how much the town charges them for a franchise fee, since they're just a pass-through. And basically, anytime you increase or request more money for a franchise fee, we pay for it. It's another tax on us. Okay, an 800 and whatever the heck I told you, 840% increase in 1 year for a franchise fee. That Charter or any other cable company has no, they don't care anything, because it's simply pass through. It isn't going to affect their bottom line one penny, but it does affect our bottom line. So, my question is, what was this money used for?
Okay.
Because everything else must be approved by the town at a town committee meeting, the budget. Well, here's some money that goes through, if you will, under the table. It doesn't come through the budget process. So can you help me out on that?
Absolutely. Mr. Mackey, would you like to take that one?
Well, I can talk about
Peg
access
fees.
fee. I'm not sure I can clarify.
That is the franchise fee.
Okay, and how that, I'm not a Charter subscriber, so I don't know how that's broken down on the bill.
It's a separate fee.
I can probably.
If you want to,
explain
and
this.
I can talk about that.
Okay. First of all, it's not true that we don't care about this. I mean, there's a federal cap of 5%, and if I could get away with 1 or 2% in every town, I would do it. I often find that I'm the person in the room representing our customers, because there's only anecdotally, once that fee becomes in a range, like you said, over $4, we worry that they'll go to the satellite dish. And we lose a customer, and the town and the public access group loses a supporter. So that,
Approved an 840% increase.
and again, that's what the town requested for their public educational and government access, and that's what's brought you the programming here in the studio here.
Can I ask,
but-
I don't mean to interrupt, I just, timing-wise, when did that increase occur?
The increase occurred a couple of years ago. However,
Okay.
this is what I found out from Charter. Once I got Boston involved, I was able to get to somebody in Charter that was not the standard person that answers questions on the phone. And what they said was that Charter screwed their record keeping up. So when you got the additional money in the town, they didn't bill people, okay, for a couple of years. And all of a sudden, they realized they had an error, a mistake, and they immediately put through the corrective action. But the bottom line is, they didn't put through any catch-up money. They just put through what was approved a couple of years before, and you probably know when that was, okay? and then we got hit on 1 year for 1 year's worth. So in 1 year, the increase is whatever I gave you, 840%. And that's kind of outrageous, especially when, you know, the town doesn't need any authority to get this thing approved, apparently. It doesn't go through the budget process, doesn't go through the town meeting process. You know, what's going on here? And also, the other question, the ancillary question is, what is the money used for? Is it restricted to a certain use? Can it be used anywhere in the town? You know, some pretty good questions.
Tom, I interrupted you, so if you want to continue, you have more, or?
No, there are two fees in our bill. There's the franchise fee, which is the annual public educational government, we call it PEG, operating fees. That's at 3.5% of gross revenue here. There's another fee, which is called, I'm forgetting the exact term, public access, FRC, franchise-related cost. That's the capital grant that we provided at the beginning of the term. And that amount in East Long Meadow was $100,000, amortized over the 5 years of the franchise. That franchise-related cost, the capital grant, that is included in the rate regulation, which is in effect. Our basic rate is regulated by the state in Massachusetts. The PEG access fee, which on our bill says franchise fee, is for the annual operating cost of running this.
The money goes to the town.
So
Yeah.
I'll pick up from there. The money goes by law into, and you may remember from town meeting, a revolving fund. So the revolving funds, in this case, by state law and federal law, if I'm not mistaken, the money can only be spent on cable-related purposes. So when the town negotiates that amount of a franchise fee, and I can get into a little history here for the prior license of how that came to be. The 3.5% is not an untypical amount for any community. There are communities that have 5% of gross revenues, 4% of revenues. There are some that have 2.5% of gross revenues. So that's really up to the town and up to what the town wants to be able to do with those funds in the way of providing public access to the community. The money is received by the town and goes into a revolving fund. The town doesn't go into the general fund at all. It's not available to the general fund. It's not available for any appropriation at town meeting for any purpose. The only way that money can be spent is by approval at town meeting of an amount to be appropriated from that revolving fund for specific cable-related purposes. And in that sense, or in that regard, every year at town meeting, there is a warrant article that reestablishes, there's one for Center School Park, there's several of them. One of those is the LCAT revolving fund. That amount for this year and the past 5 years at town meeting has been $132,000. So that is the annual operating budget for this facility, the staff, day-to-day equipment, salaries, and whatnot. So that's what operates this every year. This facility, because the amount at 3.5% of gross revenues that the town receives every year exceeds that $132,000. That money stays in the revolving fund. That's what allowed, and if you were at town meeting 3 years ago, the capital planning committee recommended its capital projects, and among those capital projects was the LCAT studio renovation, because that money was essentially in the bank, in that revolving fund, had accumulated over those prior year licenses. And that deliberately, I'll say, in terms of, my intention was knowing that we were growing the program, particularly here in the high school, involving more students. The room that we used to be in was about a little less than half the size of this room. So that was the plan, was supported by the members of the LCAT committee, which is a committee like this one that oversees LCAT, Board of Selectmen in the past. So that's how we got here, and that's where the money goes.
There's no approval of the revolving fund increases, though. You came in 1 year and basically charged the townspeople a large sum of money, a large increase, which went into the revolving fund. I understand that money taken out of the revolving fund has to be approved at the committee meeting.
Right.
But it's still costing us money whether nothing's being spent and it's just growing.
Oh,
When you take the money and throw it in the revolving fund.
and
Who approved this increase that you requested to go into the revolving fund? Selectmen?
I just want to be clear about your question. So who approved the increase? Are you talking about the amount, the 3.5%?
When we had the large increase in the franchise fee.
The selectmen had no role in that process.
Who did? Who approved it? Who requested it?
That
Of the
was,
cable company.
if I'm not mistaken, and
No, I think that
in
the
terms of the accounting, I know that
charter
there was an issue.
negotiates that, all the terms and conditions of a cable license with the town. There's a cable committee, selectmen are involved, and the Board of Selectmen is the issuing authority, so they vote for the final cable license.
So they're the ones that.
And so that's
the
what we're
year that we
going
got
through
the
now,
big
so.
increase, It was the Board of Selectmen that requested this.
Well, there
large
was an increase
which
from
went to
that,
revolving fund. Somebody had
but in
to.
terms of there being an error, we have not collected from customers more than we've paid
No,
to the
forget
town.
the error part. I'm not- that-
But so if that's your big increase,
Nothing to do with my question. The error has nothing to do with my question. You, at one point in time, the town intended to get more money to put into revolving fund. That request for more money, what may not have been put in by charter immediately because of it, that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
What is relevant is, when a large increase comes through to be put in the revolving fund, who in this town can approve that? Who reviews it?
I would think that would have to go through the contract.
That was
What's
part
negotiated.
of the negotiating process that the Board of Selectmen went through,
And
and
and that was in 2011.
that was in
Well,
2011.
And so-
I would then end by asking the Board of Selectmen to be a little bit more considerate to the size of the increase that you're putting through. Okay, because that gets directly on our bill,
Okay.
840%.
And that is exactly why you're being invited here today, so that we can make sure that we're hearing you. What was, just if I may, what was the increase? We were at 3.5%. What was it prior to that?
I think Don was going to touch a little bit maybe on the history of that. As far as prior funding for, through this fee, was not going to be adequate to grow the programming and to renovate a studio and to support the PEG access that I believe that the selectman was hearing at the time that there was support for more programming. So it was a means to, yes, grow the program. And I do remember comments, and not to put Mr. Cohan off guard, but I believe that the philosophy of the Board of Selectmen at that time was, yes, this is a pass-through cost, but that is also Charter's choice to do that. So, and I'm revisiting history here, but those were the comments that I recall Selectmen making publicly, either during their meetings or at cable hearings that were held then.
But the effect is it's always passed through, so you have to treat it as passed through.
So if I could just go back a little bit, because prior to we're now expiring a 5-year license. So that license was actually signed in, I think, February of 2011, but it was due to expire in 2000, on the old schedule, 2010. That prior license was a 3-year license that was negotiated in 2007. That was before I was directly involved, before I was the LCAT director. I was aware and involved in the discussions because I was a volunteer at the time. That license was a 3-year license because at the time, the cable industry was in front of Congress for an extended period of time, and it looked as if the whole cable industry could the whole regulatory environment was going to change. Am I,
No, I think it was more that there was a period where the licenses were shorter, and this was usually at a request of the towns, because the regulatory environment was a little uncertain, but it was uncertain because how much were the telephone companies going to get into the business?
Right.
In 1996, the Federal Telecom Act was passed, and the telephone industry was allowed to get into the video business. The cable industry was allowed to get into the telephone business. The cable industry immediately started upgrading its network to offer the broadband for internet and telephone service. The telephone industry was a lot slower, but probably 7 or 8 years ago, Verizon and AT&T started getting into the video business in a big way. And what they didn't really want to do is to go town by town in Massachusetts, 315 towns, and getting 315 franchises. So the telephone industry, again, primarily Verizon and AT&T, went to state legislatures all over the country trying to get statewide franchising. If and when they got statewide franchising, and it happened in about 20 states, that would put the local control over the incumbent cable companies at risk, because the cable companies would then say, me too, we want that statewide cable franchise as well. Today, and for the history of the cable industry, we have negotiated agreements town by town. We have a relationship with each town we serve. In those states where there is a statewide franchise, and we have a couple in New England that are kind of hybrids, where there's regional franchises. But where we have one agreement in Vermont that serves 35 communities, I really don't have a relationship with the local officials in those communities. It's regulated by a state public service board. So that's what was going on back then. That's why we had a 3-year franchise. And if I recall, the franchise fee then was based on flat fee payments as opposed to a percentage of gross. And the difference here, I'm a big supporter of the percentage of gross revenue. So if you're a basic only customer, you're not paying the same amount as the $200 a month cable customer. But if you're a $200 a month cable customer, your franchise fee is going to be pretty large.
Yeah, this is not about taking the same amount of franchise fee, the same total dollar amount, and
Yeah.
allocate it differently based on whether you're a basic customer. It's not just about that.
Yeah.
The total amount was increased at least 100%, the total take. So let's not, confuse the issue.
But I would-
'Cause I got figures from Boston. Okay, they keep track of the total take. They know what the total take is.
The value of-
The total take changed, the total
They
take went up.
don't keep track of the franchise fee. They keep track of everything that's in the rate regulation, which is the capital grant. And the rates. They have these.
But they know all the statistics and you can compute exactly how much it went up.
Well, so I would say that the value of the 2007 license was $500,000 over 3 years. That figure, and the value of the prior license was $100,000 over 10 years. So that's when you were paying the 59 cents, because that's what it works out to, or 62, but it's in that range. And that was a flat fee, so every cable subscriber paid that every month for the 10-year life of that license. When that license was due to expire, the 3-year renewal process is very particular in terms of things that have to happen. The 500,000 town was looking at the time, Wilbraham had just signed another 10-year license, they're still in it, with Charter, for $1 million and change. The town, and I was involved in these discussions, I had these discussions with people, although I wasn't directly involved, was, well, if we get another 10-year license, we ought to look at what are we going to do over those 10 years? What's it going to take to build this program? $500,000 seems like a reasonable figure. I don't think anybody knew at that point, given the way the station was operating, they wouldn't know how to spend $1 million. So the 500,000 figure was presented. The timing of the actual license process and the request for proposals and the proposals back from Charter, to my recollection, and Nick and Mr. Cohan can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm quite sure that the final license was presented to the town as this is the proposal. And under state cable law, the town had passed its opportunity in terms of time to have what's called an informal negotiation about that. And basically the town was take it or leave it. So that was $500,000. They said $500,000 is fine, but we're only offering a 3-year license. And the 3-year license in that case, it was not the request of the town, it was the request of Charter's proposal. And again, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, that was when the first increase from that 65 cents, because you do the math, then you're up in the $2.85 range. As a flat fee, paid, again, because it was a flat fee license, divided among all those cable subscribers. So everybody went from paying 65 cents to $2 and more, almost close to $3. At that point,
That's about a 6-fold increase.
that's a huge increase.
Yeah.
And that increase came about, it was not the intent of the board or of selectmen or anybody involved in LCAT at the time to have that increase hit the cable subscribers. Because at the time, if you remember what was on LCAT in 2006, there was a Board of Selectmen meeting and a school committee meeting and not a lot else. At that point, as a volunteer on the committee, I felt, and I communicated this to Nick and to the board, look, this is a done deal. People are going to see this on their bills, and they're going to say, what the heck is this? So somebody better get busy making programming and instituting some kind of a plan to give cable subscribers something for the money that they're going to have to pay now, because the license was a done deal, and the town was in a position not to change it. The total amount of that $500,000 netted us, and they divide it by 3 years. So that's, my math is, what, 165,000 a year. If you compare that, when we sat down after the expiration of that license, or leading up to the expiration of that license, to negotiate a new license, the question was, how do we want to formulate the PEG fee? What are we looking for PEG fees? There seemed to be a positive response from the community to what the increase in the programming with the high school sports and stuff from the senior center, and we got phone calls, and the same thing, I will tell you, and I understand you saying that error is irrelevant, but the same thing happened in the 3-year license. Because of the timing of when the license was signed and when that makeup fee, or however you want to call it, first showed up on the bills, because I remember getting phone calls in the studio a year afterwards from people who said, what is this fee on my bill? Why is this just showing up now? And I was baffled, because they said, we signed the license a year ago. And it took that period of time, and I thought, wow, nobody complained. Because there was a year there where nothing changed, apparently.
Right.
That was a charter area.
So,
No,
well,
that wasn't a charter
That's
error.
what charter.
No,
that's what
no.
charter
When-
executives-
in this
I
3-year
contacted
term,
them through Boston.
If we negotiate a franchise in April, we can only, again, we're rate regulated here by the state. We can only raise our rates once a year. We can't raise that, we can't add that fee. We're paying it, but we can't add it till the next January. so that instead of amortizing something over 36 months, it's actually more like 28 months or 26 months or something like that. So it comes higher, but
Not to monopolize the time, but, you know, other people got other
Yeah.
questions. Let me just end by saying, very simply, a request, that when you renegotiate, you got a chance to correct this thing. You'll know how much is in your revolving account, which basically is a fund to be used for future uses. You'll know how much is in there, you'll have your plans of what you might want to do in the future.
Absolutely.
Don't over-negotiate and overcharge on a franchise fee.
I will tell
Take it
you-
all into consideration, do it right. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I will tell you that in the discussions that this committee has had, and as long as I've been involved here, I take that issue very seriously, and I try to be very considerate of understanding the balance between charging an amount that people may feel is onerous, other people may feel is acceptable, but also providing a service that the town, I think, has felt, at least to this point, is valuable and worth that fee. So we're here to get the
Here and
feedback,
then-
so I appreciate it very much.
Okay.
I got a question for
Yeah.
Tom on the equipment. You said the new upgrades you said, talked about. My daughter lives in Springfield and she has Comcast. She does not have HD and she has an older LCD TV. In East Long Meadow, I have an LED LCD TV with HD. I can honestly say when I go to her house, her regular TV is clearer than my HD stations. So is this new equipment going to get us to the level that Comcast is at?
yeah, you should get perfectly good signals with when we go all digital. You should get perfectly good signals today.
I'm just saying that her regular stations are clearer, or just as clear as my HD stations, and she doesn't have HD. And I have a newer TV, which has all of the fancy doodads that I need. So,
Is it, digital is clearer than analog,
Yes.
so that could be the issue there, I think.
Yeah.
And then HD is clearer than
Exactly.
digital.
Yeah, and with HD, you need more equipment, and you need an
Okay,
HD
and
TV.
then I'll come back to
Yeah.
you. Okay, gentlemen, and Commissioner.
I agree with everything you said, but that's going, there'll be, in my opinion, if you don't have some moderate fee to support the revolving fund, it's going to be put on the ballot as an article to renovate this place. We're going to pay one way or the other if you need to renovate this, and you can't get it from a revolving fund. This is part of the town.
You know, also about that PEG fee that they've been talking about, really what it comes down to is what the town likes or dislikes about the LCAT programming. Is there enough? Do you want more? And there's a cost involved in that. And that's why a few years ago it was negotiated to be 3.5%. You know, is the town willing to pay that for the current programming? Do you want to pay less and have less programming? Or do you want to pay more and have more programming? That's what it comes down to.
Here.
I'm sorry?
Agreed.
He's a-
I understand what you're saying. My concern is, I have a question. Who owns
Yeah.
the telephone poles?
Telephone poles are generally owned by the power companies, and sometimes they're jointly owned by the phone company. We don't own poles, we have to lease them.
Town doesn't. Most towns don't own them. Can money be taken out of a revolving fund to start purchasing the poles? If the town of East Long Meadow owns the poles, they determine who comes in and uses their poles.
No.
Okay, check it out. That's, seriously, we own the poles. They're ours.
Okay,
I have some concerns about service with Charter.
okay.
Today is Thursday, I think it was Tuesday night, as I was watching a movie about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, TV went off. So I picked up the phone and tried to call. The phone was off. So fortunately, I called on my cell phone, and I did get someone, and the answer was, we're working on some things in town. So the TV is down and the phone is down. That's going to happen. I don't have a problem with that. But there has to be some way of letting the customers know that on January 28th, between the hours of 1 o'clock and and 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock, we'll be working on some of the aspects. It's not the surprise, that's gonna cut all the telephone calls, or most of them, out of the way. If we know in advance that something is being upgraded in the system. Now, I've only lived in town 2 years, and I've been preaching to the choir. It hasn't happened. That's a very important thing, because for a communication company, not just Charter, every one of them, Verizon, Comcast, they don't communicate very well. How do I get a local number and call it? You can't. I'm talking to someone in Timbuktu. It's a federal government barrier between everybody.
Yeah.
The customer is on the other side, and we're not getting the services. The bait and switch from Charter is the worst I've ever seen. And I've gone through Time Warner, Comcast, way the hell back since last century. I know you have control over the programming, and I know you have control over the cost, but it isn't done by accident. I only have one box. My direct in my bedroom doesn't get half the channels that I had when I signed up for Charter.
Over the
don't
last
even have
2
to
years,
answer.
we've digitized several channels, which is kind of an introduction to what's going to happen in the fall when everything is digital. So if you lost some channels, if you had a box, you would be seeing those channels.
I lost them on my box also.
No, we didn't.
When I came into town, this is my last thing, people want to talk.
Okay.
I used to get the Yankees quite a bit. I don't anymore. I get them, but sporadic.
On what station? I mean, we don't own programming, and broadcast stations differ on what they carry. Somebody may have stopped carrying the Yankees. We never carried the Yankee network.
Very, very limited. Not on 9, or I think it's 9.
It's 11.
11? Thank you.
Okay.
And I like the Yankees. I've only been following them for 67 years. So. Thank you.
You deserve a break.
All right, there was somebody else on this side as well?
I've got a question.
Okay, so here and then in the back and, okay. I'm coming back over here, I promise, because he had raised his hand and then we'll come back. We're gonna make sure we hear from all of you. That is our goal. Yes.
Is it? Yep. Me? Okay. Mr. Cohen, I was listening to 22, and I saw Charter's commercial on there. The guy on the motorcycle, the 3 angels on the wall talking about how good the service is. I'm not here to talk about how good my service is from Charter, because since February 14th, I've had issues with my cable line. It's underground, unfortunately. Your box is on the other side of the road. They came out on the 14th, they said I had a bad signal. They would put in a request, but it was wintertime, they couldn't do anything. Fully agreed. April 20th, my box goes down. And apparently, because I have a poor signal, it prematurely wears the box out. So the tech
The TV
said-
box?
The TV box. They replaced the box, they said, we'll put in a request. They come out on May 27th. Now, the other ones were from Tri-Wire, so apparently not, you subsidiary.
Those are contractors.
Right, under contract. Now, one of you guys come out, James comes out on the 27th, says the signal's real bad, wants to check it, new box again. I didn't get it. My wife likes to have the DVD, so we pay extra for that. We had gone on vacation the week before. None of the programs were recorded because apparently the signal was gone. When I called, I got a hard time. They said that I could only turn around and get reimbursed for the date that I complained. I said, well, wait a minute, I was on vacation. Finally, going through channels, they made somewhat of an adjustment. The guy says, we'll put in the request. Okay, now, I believed him. On June the 5th, you sent another guy out, another technician, to check the line to see if it could be spliced. Now, that was over 2 weeks ago. I know that they have to come out and mark the roads for all the electricals. I'm still waiting for that underground cable to be replaced. Since February, you guys have known. Pretty poor service.
Okay. I'd be happy to, after this meeting, which I think is televised, talk to anybody about individual issues and follow up with you afterwards.
Fantastic. Okay. Roland, Mr. Curtis?
First one is your programming is now being digitized, is that correct?
Some of it already has been, and some of it has been digital for a while, but we will be going all digital in November of this year.
So if you have a digital or HD TV, you should not need a set box.
No, you will need a set-top box for every channel.
If your programming is digital and you have a digital TV, why do you need a set box or receiver to get the signal?
The programming is encrypted so that you get the channels that you pay for.
Okay, the second question I have for you is that, as the gentleman said, a lot of times your signal is down. Sometimes I lose the signal and I lose my internet signal, so I'm getting both from Charter. There has been no adjustments on the bill every time this has happened, and it's happened quite frequently, especially with the internet.
And have you called?
I have called.
Okay.
I have called. And I usually wind up with somebody overseas.
We are actually bringing all of our overseas call centers into the United States. In fact, we have just one left, which is in Mexico, which focuses on our Spanish-speaking customers.
It's funny, because I was speaking to somebody in India last week.
Okay. All right. I heard you. Okay.
Those are my two questions.
So would you be getting with him after, with regards to?
I'd be happy to.
And I heard a groan, so it sounds like that is happening quite a bit, so maybe it is a, overall problem, so we'll address that this way and then back over here. Yes.
3 questions, 1 minor, 2 major. Customer service, when you call Charter, you get the computer recording, you have to scream at the computer. I don't have to be asked after you try to tell them, well, I do not understand, would you please repeat that? I mean, this is probably the worst opening that you have for this computer. Either it's not up to date, it's the worst. I mean, I have to press 0. And even getting that, she said, well, I don't understand, what did you say? I mean, it's the worst.
Okay.
I mean, really bad. And the second issue is your customer service in Chicopee. I walked in one day, and I was standing there by myself. And I hear, you got 3 people there, and you got a cable guy in the back. And he's talking about some woman that has bipolar, 2 of the girls, and they're chatting back and forth. And I stood there, okay? I'm a very, very easygoing person.
Okay.
But to have to stand there, you know, all of a sudden, I did bring it up to the attention of Dave at the office, and I believe he did correct the problem, but this doesn't end. I stand in line, and it's the same thing. 3 weeks later, they're right back to what they're doing. And one day I asked about service in I told him I lived in East Long Meadow. Oh, you're going to have to go to Ludlow. We don't take care of that.
This is the Chicopee office?
This is the Chicopee office. It's almost like they sit there. It's like the state. They must look at their fingernails all day long.
Okay.
And really, they've been trying. But you should see the look. As a customer, I'm standing in line, and you've got a line going out the door there, and everybody is very, very fed up. Okay? And it's very sad, because I'll tell you something, I really, really enjoy Charter. Okay?
Okay.
I'm not looking for Comcast coming in. I'm sorry on some people's plate.
Everybody has their own opinion.
I know, but when Comcast comes in, I mean, I've been over to my cousin's house in Springfield. I mean, do I really want to pay $60 for internet service? I mean, you're on unlimited income as a senior. And this is, again, tonight was the first time I ever heard anything about a senior You said at the beginning.
Yeah, there's a 10% senior discount on basic cable.
Just basic.
And just basic. And one of the things that, as a committee that we've been trying, and we do have a question for Mr. Tom Coleman with regards to that, what is basic and how do you get it? And so I'm sure one of the board members will pose that question. But there is a 10% discount in our current contract for veterans as well as for seniors. May I ask the question now? The question is, how are we letting our public know about that, and how do they get the discount? What is the procedure?
They can call or go to a customer service office.
But there's a lot of people that don't even know.
Okay.
The senior discount is for income eligible seniors for the basic service
Yeah,
only.
what, for 7 stations? I remember
Basic service has probably 40 or 50 channels.
No, I lived in Chicopee, and I had an elderly mother, okay? She had up to 57, okay? And at least she got HGTV. But then you start working on, or she even had Turner Classic Movies, okay? You start take the equation of Turner Classic Movies for a lot of seniors. They watch that. Well, all of a sudden, boom, you get your next bill, and that even goes into another tier. And you're paying higher and higher and higher. Now, my issue is, I love HGTV and I love DIY or whatever it is. They moved that into another tier. Okay? And so now I have to pay.
We have not moved
Oh, yes,
channels
you
into
have.
different tiers
Oh,
like
yes,
that. We
you
have
Let's keep it
digitized
civil.
channels, so that there's probably 40 or 50 channels in the basic service, including HD channels.
That-
Is it available? Can I call and say, I would like to order basic cable?
Sure.
And it's about $12.85 a month?
No,
That's-
it's
no, you
not.
can't.
Try about 20.
No, the basic cable that they put in a rate increase for in March is about $12.85 a month. Isn't that correct?
It's a
And about
regulated
30
rate, it's different,
it's
in
about
every one of the
37
towns that's
channels.
regulated, it's different.
Now, my question is, I called to try to order that basic cable, and it's not available.
It is.
Well, even the gentleman that came to the house trying to sell Charter Cable to me said, we don't sell that.
So I guess the question, okay, 1 minute.
If
I guess
anybody has tried to buy basic service and couldn't, I'd like to get your name and phone number
Okay.
after the meeting.
All right. And so you know what I'd like to do also, Nick, if you can start getting, for those who would like to go on a list so that we can refer to you later, your names and your addresses and your telephone numbers, any contact information that you'd like to provide us with. I do need to go over to this side. It's here and then here and then there.
I've been a direct TV subscriber. I wanted to switch to Charter.
Okay.
And I'm having some difficulty doing it in that when we bought the house on Pleasant Street in East Long Meadow, the wiring was not put in. And so we had to arrange, or attempt to arrange, the underground cable. The cost to me would be somewhat less than $1,000 in addition to what the cable would supply. And so I thought I had things all lined up when I was speaking to points far away. But when it came out, everything was mapped out, and I was told that I'd been approved for the approximate $1,000 fee and expect a bill the next day, or being sent immediately, and I would pay it, and then they would apply for pole applications. I have several poles on the property, but it has to go through somebody, and it might be available in the fall, because there'd be a 3-month application wait. I did not get the bill, so I don't know whether the application has gone forward or not. And when I phoned in, I was asked to drive out to Chicopee because they did not take calls. So I drove out to Chicopee, went through a short line, was told the individual, Michael Tarleton, will call you back immediately, but I have not heard or been able to find out whether it's underway or whether I should pay first, and I have been interrupted one way or another in my attempts to find out. I think in public, the absence of a phone in Chicopee, I guess for many good reasons, is an impediment to
Yeah.
getting things done locally.
I'd be happy to take your name and number after this. and-
Okay.
There's a
But
sheet
but
going around.
to answer a quick question, when there are poll licenses involved, again, we don't own the polls, it can take
Oh, I'm
4 to 6,
not-
yeah.
No, I recognize the difficulty. I recognize the difficulty in opening your phones to the public for complaints. It's very expensive and often futile. But I did not have an access to find out why something wasn't sent.
Okay,
Okay.
Thank you.
all right. Right here, and then to the other gentleman.
Well, my comments kind of encompass pretty much similar issues that we've gone around the room and heard already. Well, first of all, the customer service question obviously really should be addressed by the cable company, because it's simply unacceptable. When you try to call to get help for any reason. Having said that, I've had a problem for the past several months and can't seem to speak to anyone that will give me any time to try and help correct the problem. My bill is adding up charges for a cable box that I don't have. And it all stems back to, now it's going to sound repetitious, had a cable box that went bad, had a serviceman in, he replaced it, following day had to get another one, serviceman came, replaced that box. Probably a month after that, that box went bad, had that one replaced. After all was said and done, I'm now being charged for 3 cable boxes, but I only have 2. Apparently somewhere in all of this switching of boxes, one of them, company must have lost track of it. They think I still have it, I don't. Had a cable guy a couple of weeks ago. He knows I don't have more than 2 boxes. I continue to get charged on my bill for 3 cable boxes. I thought I had a lead with a phone number, must be a super secret phone number, to someone that could really maybe work on it, and they never returned my call. Do you think people in the company know how aggravating that is to customers?
They do. They do. And we are constantly trying to improve our customer service, whether it's in the local offices or the phone system.
Well, I'm still trying to get it fixed, but it's just very frustrating. The other issue has to do with, I don't have a computer, so I guess I can't take advantage of the reward points. I have over 22,000, and I can't use them. Do you think that's fair?
We're penalized because we don't have a computer. We're penalized. It's almost impossible for them. They won't help. They won't help. They don't give you much help to be
So
able to get access.
you're generating awards points, but you have to go online to
Oh,
redeem them, I guess is the right word.
And that's it. That's the hard and fast rule.
it should be made available. It seems like it's discriminatory to do that because we choose not to have a computer.
I honestly have never heard that one before, but I'll get your name and address afterwards.
Okay, gentlemen, is that it, sir?
Yes.
Okay, all right, now I'm ready for you.
Well, I just wanted to say that in the past year, my cable bill has increased
30%.
30%?
30%.
Does anybody else need to sign this?
No,
Excuse me.
all set, thank you.
Okay.
Do a good job. We'll give you some more points.
And I don't know, frankly, where it's going to end.
Were you on a promotion and rolled off that promotion?
I was on a promotion,
Okay.
but
That's
still-
the only way someone's bill could have gone up that much.
Yeah,
They
well,
were on
it's probably-
a discounted rate for a certain time, and then that ended.
Yeah, but the rates are, well, I suppose you might say the rates are what they are, but when you're...
The rates haven't gone up more than about 2% in the last couple of years, and the basic rate in East Long Meadow is regulated, so if, I'm not sure if it's $12.85, but it's $12.85, that's pretty
Within a
low.
few pence. You just filed
I
for
would be
an increase
interested.
in March.
If Charter would do, consider à la carte pricing, because, we have a couple of different categories that we like, but we don't need all the programming.
Yeah, a lot of people would like à la carte pricing, but
Yeah.
many of the programming surface wouldn't exist today if they had to rely on people choosing them, so that there's a lot of programming. Sure, there's lots of people who like sports, but there's also lots of people who like home and garden and other particular services that probably wouldn't exist today if they had to rely on à la carte pricing. As a cable company, we can't buy programming à la carte. If we want Disney, ABC, ESPN, among those, there's probably 25 channels. We have to buy them all because they're all owned by the same company. We can't buy the programming that our customers like the most à la carte, so that when we offer ESPN, we have to buy, I don't know, 7 or 8 to 10 ESPNs, Classic and 2 and ESPNU and everything else.
Are there other cable companies that offer à la carte?
No. And the satellite companies don't either.
To the back, and then I'll work my way to the front. Yes, sir.
My name is Brian Marcolonis. I live in town, and I am an internet subscriber. And I know recently there was a big issue with net neutrality, and it's my understanding that now the cable companies are allowed to throttle speeds on selected websites. Like, say I wanted to watch Netflix, if a cable company wanted to slow the speed to Netflix, they could do so. I think it would be important for us as a community to put in, or consider putting in a clause that would have the cable company agree not to throttle speeds between the citizens of the town and the sites they're going to.
Cable companies do not do that.
Do they have the ability to do it?
Cable companies have to manage their networks. It's a shared network so that everybody off a node is sharing that internet bandwidth.
I'm sorry,
So
I don't mean that. I don't mean the...
But that's what network neutrality really is.
Okay, do you have the ability to, because if I'm wrong, then I'll just drop it completely because I don't mean to raise something that doesn't exist. Can Charter regulate my speed intentionally to any particular website that I may want to visit?
Charter's goal is to offer you the optimum speed that you're paying for. So if you're paying for 30 megabits per second,
Can they legally regulate my speed? Say I'm watching Netflix, could you regulate my bit rate? Or
we don't.
But could you legally? Because if you could and you don't, then it would be no problem to agree to not do it.
We've never done it, and we don't intend to do it.
Okay.
We heard you.
We want our customers to get the best internet experience possible.
Thank you.
Now, I had your telemarketer, I assume that's who it was, called, try to get me to take Charter phone. I said, no, I'm not interested. Then I get a notice that they're coming out to hook me up. And so I called Chicopee, and they said, you have to come in. So I had to drive to Chicopee and back at 40 miles round trip, pickup truck 10 miles to the gallon. It cost me. Just to say, I don't want it. I didn't want it in the first place. They don't want to talk to you over the phone. I brought my cable box in when you people switched over. I had a $25 deposit. I said, what about my deposit? That was taken out. Well, I went and looked back. It's never been taken out. I got ripped off for 25 bucks.
I don't believe we've ever had box deposits.
Huh?
I don't believe we've ever had box deposits.
I seem to remember.
When I first had the cable, I had a box, I had to turn it in to get the new. And my deposit just went away. Somebody probably had a nice dinner on it. I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Just to add some positive comments here, if you don't mind. Going back to underground wiring, I had an issue last October where I had a very weak signal. I was going over to telephone service to get all three of the bundle. And they came in, hooked up my phone, and come to find out, I had a weak signal coming from the street. And the gentleman told me, first of all, they couldn't replace the wire until the spring, which I understood because the winter was coming. So what they wound up doing, he mentioned, was disconnect the TVs that aren't being used and also any telephones, and that would strengthen the signal with the other TVs, which worked fine over the winter time. I also got a letter from Charter saying that, installations wouldn't begin until April. I got a phone call in March saying, okay, they're gonna come out on such and such a date to put in the new cable. They came in, put the new cable in fine. That was in April. June, I turned on my irrigation system. You know where I'm going with this?
I thought you said this was positive.
Well, it was. There was a positive element to that.
I will say, from there, they hit not one zone, but 3 zones of my irrigation system. I called Charter. Within a half an hour, I got a phone call back from your damage claims department. Within a half hour from that, I got a call from another company, I think it was Tri-Wire. And within a week, they were out, they dug up my lawn, replaced the irrigation pieces. But I would only say one comment to that is, the guys from Tri-Wire, my wife told them we had an irrigation system and the direction the piping was. I came home from work and did the same thing. And then all of a sudden in June, I've got a water spout in the front lawn because they hit 3 zones. They just got, if you could just pass on the word, they've got to be a lot more careful with customers that have irrigation systems.
Okay. All right, back over to her, to him, and to her, him.
Short question, why don't you offer an app for the iPad for email?
Why don't we offer an,
Yep. I talked to
we
Dave.
offer a Charter app.
No.
So you can use an iPad to
I have
control
an
your
iPad.
TV.
Yeah, I have an iPad, okay, and I also have other Mac products. But I cannot get into, I get as far as putting in my, my Charter, and then it takes me directly to putting in my email address, nothing after that. I cannot, 2 years now, I've tried this. And I called Chickadee and I talked to a very nice gentleman named Dave. And he called me back and you don't have an app for getting into the iPad. Even my next door neighbor next to me, she says, I can't get in. And I go directly onto the site, okay, and go into email, type in everything, tosses me right out. Since I'm, like you get that, when you've tried 4 times to get in, nothing happens. So if I'm traveling, okay, and I try to, this happened to me last time when I was visiting my children out in Wyoming. At the last minute, they changed the flight. I only brought my iPad with me. Thank God she had a computer there, so I was able to use hers. But I almost missed my flight.
Now,
They changed it.
Is your name is on the list?
I didn't put it on.
You didn't?
No, because I thought, I didn't think, that would be really
Well,
relative, but
if
I
it's something
will
that
add it.
we can follow back up on
Yes.
as a committee, because that's an individual, I don't know if anybody else is having that issue, so you'll do that. So back over here and then over there. And I do think after you, we're gonna discuss some of the issues that we had come across at some of our other hearings over at the senior center. We had some concerns. So yes, sir.
Just to follow up on the senior discount.
Yes.
That's limited right now to basic service. Is that something that the committee could look into during the negotiations about expanding that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I heard you loud and clear.
Even Apple said the same thing to me. When I was up there at the store, we tried to even put some things in, and it wouldn't happen.
Okay. Yes, sir.
It's directed to Mr. Cohen.
Everybody's coming to you, Mr. Moore.
That's why I'm here.
Okay, I know. And thank you for coming out. I know.
When an individual signs up initially to get charter, and then, let's say they take the bundle, there's an agreement. It's not in writing. I never got anything in writing that said, for X number of months or years, this is what you will be subject to. And again, I know that it'll change, they tweak it back and forth. So that at the end of, I think, 2 years, I just got a bill, I don't know if it was June or May. The gentleman mentioned it went up 30%, mine went up higher than that. But I wish I had the continuing agreement, that's all, say, Mr. O, this is what it's gonna be for 2 years. And then at the end of that agreement, you're gonna see an increase in your bill. And let me know where the increase is, that's all. I think it's communication. We hear a lot about the lack of communication, which you don't have a direct answer for that, because it's possibly the type of people we have to hire that don't care. It's not just charter, it's all over. Thanks.
Okay, I'm just gonna, I will come to you and to you, Ms. Curtis, but I wanted to get those comments that were made today. If we could, Mr. Mackey, do you have those noted?
So we did meet a couple of times at the senior center during the day with some people who couldn't make it to the hearings. So I think particularly among the seniors, the biggest issue seems to be difficulty understanding, and I think as a committee we have the same difficulty understanding what exactly is included in basic cable. How does anybody know what's available for them to buy, what is additional to that, and how is that charged? We spoke with several people. I have basic cable. It costs me, it was 17 and change a month. Now, because they've digitized some of the channels, I can't get some of the channels. They've moved them into a different tier.
No, they're right where they were, but you need a box.
So now they have to have the box.
Right.
So the bill has gone from $18 a month to $30 and change.
If they were a basic-only customer, when we digitized some channels, they had an opportunity to get 2 free boxes for 2 years.
Well, I guess my question
But
would be
then what
how
happens
did...
after 2 years?
They pay for a box.
Okay.
How clear is, and that was the other
Yeah.
thing, is that the promotions, there's one gentleman I spoke with today. He has called every month on the calendar for the past year about some aspect of it. And he can't afford to pay more than X amount. I don't know what he has for service, but he said his bill is, he pays under $50 a month. But the only reason he pays under $50 a month is because one promotion expires. He said, now my bill's gone up again. What do I do? He has to call, and then somebody has to dig up another promotion to offer him. Then he's got to keep track of that. Frankly, I think, I don't know, how many of you encountered some variation of that? I think from the committee standpoint, from the community standpoint, I think that that's a lot of what we've heard. And what kind of control does the town have with respect to customer service and clarifying the billing and clarifying the communication so that people have a clear idea from month to month, as this gentleman said, over a period of a year or 2 years, this is what I want to sign up for, this is what I want to get, and they have a reasonable expectation that it's more or less going to stay that way and not change.
We have standard packaging. We have basic, we have select, we have silver, we have gold. If you're not in a promotion, it'll stay the same. But if you're in a promotion, you're gonna get a good discount for a certain period of time.
People can see.
And that's what a promotion is.
Right, but
And it's stated up front that you will get this discounted price for this period of time.
I guess what they're asking also is that once the promotion is about to retire, or is there any documentation, perhaps you can put a
There's a
little
notice on your
asterisk.
bill.
There is an asterisk
There's a
on the bill.
notice on your bill.
There is a notice in the bill.
Then you call back and you try
Okay.
to deal with them to get a better deal.
Mhm.
And you have to be very assertive.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I do want to touch base on one gentleman, I guess.
$45.
Yeah, and what happened with the gentleman, he was having some difficulties with trying to figure out, and it goes to customer service. He was having some difficulty finding out how to use his on-demand. And so he called out to the office and tried to, get it over. And of course, they tell you what to do, and he was having some difficulties. And he said, and it was still not working. And so what they did is they said, we'll send somebody out to help you. Well, they did, and he was helped. But then he got a bill for $45. I would ask that if there is going to be some, maybe this has to do with customer service training, if there is going to be some sort of a fee that's associated with that when they're offering the service, saying that, yes, I can send somebody, but the fee will be $45. I just want to let you know that the gentleman, when I asked him, he said, yes, he would have paid it, but he would have liked to have known about it on the front end. He said the service was worth it because it got him to be able to access his channels there, but there may be somebody who may not want to go through that. And so just as a customer service point, I will go to, right here, and I thought
Mr. Adams.
Mr. Adams
Yes.
had what, and then we'll go to you. Sorry.
Well, I just want to let everybody know that it's good to see some people finally get out. The selectmen have done a good job in the past and the future with the people that they represent, the selectmen at these meetings. But I want to tell this gentleman tonight, he has no idea what goes on in your office.
Yeah, that's
A
right.
year and a half, I've had 4 boxes.
Yeah, I can beat that. I had 4 boxes in 2 months.
Well, you're watching it too much. You need a boyfriend.
Okay, all right.
So anyways, I'm very disappointed that the cable company didn't have a couple of supervisors here tonight that run your office and your people out in the field to see how the people really feel tonight. It shouldn't be all on your shoulders. You're supposed to lead the group, and the group is supposed to represent cable access, people to people.
Yeah.
Now, they come to my house, the box goes. I call the office, I finally got some lady, and she's, just a minute, I'll get you a serviceman. The guy gets on there and he says, sir, go to your box and push this button and that button. I said, sir, maybe you don't understand English. I rent the box from the cable company. It's your box, I'm not touching it. I want a serviceman up here, today, tomorrow, whenever you can. I'm home. He comes up, a charter fella, nice guy, neat, clean, good job. Checks the box out, it's bad. Goes down cellar, puts in another booster. I got more electricity, I got more things for charter that lights up. It's amazing. 3 weeks later, the box goes. I get the other private company to come 2 days later. The guy comes, yeah, check it out. And I got 4 boxes in the house. The one in the living room always seems to go. He said, I gotta get another box. He goes out in the truck, he gets a box, fills out his yellow paperwork. I signed it that he was there, very polite. He walking out the door, the box blows up. I said to him, Charlie, come here. It don't work. He calls a supervisor in Chicopee that brings out another box. So he has to hang around for half an hour, and he's doing paperwork, calling on the phone. But you have no idea. Believe me when I tell you, I was in management for 45 years. You have no idea what's going on, and these people are 100% right. From your offices down to your field people. It is sad. It's absolutely sad, the technology that we got today, and you got good people, but they have no leadership. Believe me when I tell you, if you come to my house, you will not believe the stuff that they put on my beam. And by my TV, I got 3 boosters to boost up this. And the boxes keep going. And the cable is very poor. The last time the guy did what he could. And I just want to tell you that, and this selectman and the committee that's on here, I can't understand why we can't advertise Boston, New York, Pennsylvania, see if we can get some other cable company in here, because we need for you people to have competition. You have no competition.
It's a monopoly.
I don't say that, it's just that they inherited something from the other company, and past selectmen just never looked at it down the road and say, Jesus, you know, one company, that's not fair. You know, it's not fair, and it's not fair to these people. Because they're just gonna go along, and their employees are gonna say whatever they want, like the lady with the Chicopee. They told me last year, bring the box of chicken. I said, I ain't bringing no box of Chicopee. Unless you wanna give me a PO and you're gonna pay me for my time. She hung the phone up. But you really need, when you go to meetings like this, and this is a good group, I'm very proud of what they've done in advertisement to get these people here. Because a lot of meetings, there'll only be 1 or 2. But you need to get your supervisors that deal with these people daily to come to these meetings and sit in the back row and see the kind of heat that you're taking, that you're assuming every day that everything's running good. Now you're gonna stay tonight, you're gonna have about 10 names to do, and that's just more creative more work for you. But the cable service people are good people that come to the homes. They're polite, they're neat. And the other thing I want to think is I have a program. Then my wife and the kids decide they want another program. So to get, we'll say baseball. I get baseball, I get 5 more on that system, which I already have. I can't understand why we can't pick out, at nighttime, I got 9 channels with news. What do I need 9 channels of news for? I mean, I don't understand it, but every time you get a new programming to do auto racing or something else, there's 4 or 5 of those channels in there that I'm paying, that I've already got. Why do I need it over and over again? And I think this is where the industry is not looking at the people's needs. Nobody's talking about the dollar amount. Yes, things are expensive, we understand that. But every time you try to improve your TV for your family, I end up with the same thing I already got to get 2 other things. And it's not fair. It's not fair. That's bad business.
We choose the programming that's out there.
Oh, I understand.
And we have to please a lot of different people with different programming interests.
Right, but why can't we have a choice to say that we want that or don't want it? But there's no way in your system that you could erase that?
Those channels wouldn't be there, as I described earlier.
Right. Why do I need a channel that people don't even talk English? I don't understand what they're doing. Whether they're buying a car or selling a house or what?
We have a lot of customers who prefer languages in Spanish.
But why do I need that? Why should you as a provider say to me...
I'm not saying you do need it, but that's part of the package.
Can that be blocked out? Like, let's say, for instance, he doesn't want to see them. There has to be a way.
You can use a parental control feature on the remote and the box to block any channel.
Right.
But I'm still paying for it.
Yeah.
It's in the package.
You've got my blessings, but believe me, you need to get your people out here to listen to what you go through, and I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
Mrs. Dorr.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
I am at the point, I bought a house 3 years ago in East Long Meadow. Grew up in East Long Meadow. And I've seen the cable change over the years in the internet. My big issue right now is the internet. Over the last 3 years, we've had guys out at the house. And multiple times, the last 3 guys all said the same thing. You're only getting 15 to 17. And I'm like, well, why am I only getting 15 to 17? Well, there must be a bad wire. They go out and they check the wires. The guy goes all the way up the street, and I don't see him anymore. But he's checking on the different poles. And I never hear back. But I call back, and I get an hour. It takes me an hour by the time I get somebody and all this stuff.
Computer again.
So they send somebody else back out. I'm only getting 15. Why am I paying for 30 when I'm getting 15? So I tell that on the phone. I says to the person that trying to sell me something the other day. I said, why don't bother trying to sell me something that you're not going to give me. You know, I'm paying 130 something a month almost for cable and internet. Very disappointed. Spent a year in Korea, $45 a month for cable, and I had 1 gigabyte, not a megabyte or 100 megabytes. I had a gigabyte, 45 bucks. Why are we going to pay 135? You know, and it doesn't even, I don't get what I'm paying for.
Did the cable company give you new homes?
I've had my box replaced a few times.
No, recently I went over to Ledlow because they said that they were going to be increasing from 10 megabytes to 30. So they said it was going to be no charge to give me, they gave me the new one to hook it up, which I haven't had to because with Apple, I'm hooked right in less than a second.
Yeah. I got a smart TV in the living room, and it I don't know. I did Comcast, and let me tell you, Comcast is way up there, and Charter is way down here as far as service. The pictures are better, like I've heard other people. It's just,
But money-wise, it's going to be
and it was cheaper. I thought it was cheaper. I'd rather have paid $150 and have something decent and actually have the 30 megabytes or whatever it was at the time that I was getting. I mean, I was deployed in Iraq, and I was trying to communicate with my wife at the time. That was fine. I couldn't do it. I probably couldn't do it today.
Okay. All right. Do I see any other questions from the audience? Well, no.
We don't blame you.
No. We want to make sure that we're hearing what you're saying. If there's something repetitive, certainly, we're I don't know if we need to hear, but if you need to say it, we're here to listen. We're going into these negotiations, and we want to go with our eyes open wide. So, Mr. Hildreth, and then if there are any other comments that our community wants to make, we'll go ahead that way.
I'm trying to simplify my thoughts. It came down to 2 words.
Okay.
Simplicity and control. I think the control looks at your bill and says, I don't understand my bill. I'm getting stuff I don't know why I'm paying for it. I think the simplicity is the understanding of the stages of your purchase for Charter or Comcast, whatever. How do you control that? What's going to happen 5 years from now with Charter or any cable TV system if we go on a long-term contract and the whole philosophy of cable TV changes? Are we controlling that in the term so that when new incidents of technology comes in, we'll be prepared to be able to accept it without being locked outside? I'm afraid of the advances that are occurring in this mode of communication, and it's going to change so drastically because look what's happened in the last 5 years. If I want to watch my TV now, I don't need a box. When all digital comes in, all of a sudden I need a box. Go to Ludlow and get one. It's going to cost you $6.20 a month forever. I'm not particularly pleased with that. I don't know why the TV company can't put that right into TV instead of putting it on a monthly basis. If they knows what the public wants, then we ought to let them know. Why $6 a month? Right now I can watch that TV and be satisfied. I'm not a TV bug at all. I'm really not. But when I do watch it, I enjoy what I see. And with the thoughts of what's going to occur, another $6 a month or more, it adds up. Fixed income for 20 some odd years now, it's no fun. It really is not any fun. And if you have senior discounts, the seniors, what relates to that seniors? Your income. That's the way the whole world revolves around that premise. If you don't have it, you get it. If you have it, you pay to get it. I think it's a philosophical problem, for me anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm paying $10 more a month just because I love DIY, and they shoved that into the one under the silver. I had the silver, and I said, I don't watch HBO, so they said, and I looked at it, I said, oh, what, HGTV, that's the same as that, as the other one is, but they just took that and they put it into that next tier. So I'm paying $10 more a month, just for one channel. And that is very unfair, especially when you're on a limited income. Because there's a lot of people that watch TV. A lot of elderly people stay home because that's the only entertainment they have, especially people that are on walkers, okay? And there's a lot of people that don't have cars. So this is very unfair. What are they going to do, watch a base and get a 10% discount? I mean, and get what? Nothing. Nothing.
So I did hear that we want to consider definitely making sure that the discount for the seniors is in the proposal. I did hear about customer service. I do want to ask a question, and I will come to you. I do want to ask a question with regards to the reports. We were looking at and this is not on you per se, but I did look at the reports with regards to people reporting problems and with regards to the customer service. What is the name of that report, Nick?
It's the form number escapes.
The Mass Form 500 report.
Right. And it showed zeros, but yet I'm hearing a different story from my constituents. So I'm wondering how accurate is that information that we're
Those are the
receiving?
number of written complaints, and that's what this is a Massachusetts state form, and that's what a complaint is defined as.
Okay, so it's written, so them calling doesn't constitute a complaint? I thought phone calls were considered a complaint as well.
If somebody calls to have a service issue dealt with, that's not a complaint, that's a service issue.
I guess there's a difference.
Okay, so, well, no, he's just stating as it is. So certainly that's something that we may want to look at.
We have
in
a
the
form under state law that we have to fill out, and we fill out according to the state law. It's related to customer complaints and outages are 24 hours or more.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything that anybody on the panel would like to
I'm
say?
all set.
Because I do want to get
Jerry.
to Jerry. Okay, you're all set, Ms. Burrow? Okay, you're set. So I'm going to go to him and then back to you.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Do we have the option to buy the boxes from Charter?
Yeah, how come we
Why
can't?
not? Why would we?
It's proprietary software in them.
I guess we got to be charged $6.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Ready? Is there anything you would like to say, sir, in closing?
No, I guess, do you want me to, since that just crosses my mind and we make
Yes.
sure we get it, we will have another one of these. This was printed on the flyer, and more flyers will go out in the reminder on September 18th.
September
So on the
18th?
Thursday. Spread the word. This was great to have this kind of a turnout.
Yep.
And we're going to try to have one
During the day.
during.
Yep, we're having one in the
We may
daytime.
also
too.
see if we can schedule one during the day. I think Tom has indicated that he would make every effort to make himself available if the date works out. Because there are people at the senior center who have difficulty coming out in the evening. And we want to accommodate them.
Absolutely.
We also made brief mention of the survey. This committee is in the process of defining what that will be and how it will be distributed to the town. It might be a telephone survey. It might be a paper survey. It might be a combination or a computer survey. Our goal as a committee is to get on paper feedback from as broad a percentage of the town as we can about all the issues related to ascertainment. And because PEG access is a big piece, what do people want from this facility, you know, because that's where the chunk of the funding that shows up on your bill goes. It supports my operation, our operation of this facility. And maybe a lot of people watch it, maybe some people don't watch it, but those are all issues that we really can't negotiate a license and come to some reasonable term for what that PEG fee should be if we don't have a broad sense from the community of what they want. So I guess I've just, at this point, say, when someone calls at 7 o'clock at night and says, we're conducting a 5-minute survey, do you want to participate? I've just let you know, and there'll be more advertisement about this, that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
That, from our perspective, this committee's perspective, the town's perspective, and I think from your perspective, would be a valuable 5 minutes of your time.
Exactly.
So I just want to put that out there tonight.
I'm sorry?
I think a paper survey would be good.
I think what we're looking at is how we're going to put that out, and we want to make sure that we get as much input as possible.
If you send that through all the town, everybody would fill it out, and they would send it in.
Okay. Well,
And a reminder too. Yeah.
we'll definitely try to have a 3-prong or a multi-prong way of getting that information. Mr. Cohen, I would like to give you, first, thank you for coming today.
You're very
We
welcome.
did. Can we give him a nice round of applause for, coming in? And we appreciate it, and I'm not saying that frivolously. Is there anything that you would like to say in closing before I close this out?
For anyone here who had a service issue, I'll stay here afterwards. I hope these lights get turned off a little bit.
I
I'm
know,
cooking.
isn't it?
But I need names and addresses and phone numbers, and I will follow up on everyone.
Okay. I'm just going to reiterate what Mr. Mackey said. On September 18th will be another hearing at 7 o'clock here at the LCAT studio. We are looking to also have one at the senior center on that same date. You will be notified. We appreciate your participation as we go forward in getting what we need for the community and making sure that it's meeting your needs as well. One thing that I did want to say, I will publicly say, if you have it for the people out there, my phone number is 413-486-0277. If for some reason you'd like to add something to this conversation, I'm certainly open to that. The town hall's phone number is 413-525-5400, extension 1100. Mr. Mackey's, Don Mackey's phone number is 413.
You got it?
525, finish it?
4220.
4220. The other gentlemen, I'm not going to put their private numbers out there, but certainly you see their faces. If you see them, they'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you. Thank you for your, can I speak to you off camera?
No.
No, okay, go ahead.
All I want to do is to thank the committee for giving these people the opportunity to express their problems.
Absolutely.
I think it's valuable to the town of East Long Meadow to have an open voice and to be able to speak to people that can do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's putting a burden on you, but carry the ball and get a touchdown, will you?
Okay, we're going to do our best. It's all about transparency. Thank you so much for coming tonight. That does conclude our meeting. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And is there a second? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Thank you and good night.